Hell yeah, we're live. We're going to be talking about sustainability today. What's sustainable? What does it mean? What kind of diet? What kind of diet you going to go on that you can actually follow and stick to? It's really critical that the diet is. Sorry about the noises there. Just making some adjustments to my microphone. But yeah, sustainability. It's the name of the game. You have to be able to sustain the diet in order to sustain the results. It's pretty obvious, right? But we oftentimes hear somebody say, "Oh, keto didn't work because when I went off of it, I gained all my weight." Well, when you're not utilizing something, like let's say your car, for example, if you're not in your car, then you can't get the benefits of your car. You have to get inside the car and then drive the car, which entails you using the car. When you're using a particular diet, it will take you to a certain place if you do it and if you follow it. If you follow the roadmap that's ahead of you, then it will work. Almost all diets work. We see incredible success with people losing weight, but we see incredible defeat because people gain weight, and sometimes they gain not only the weight back, but they gain that weight back and then some. That happens a lot too. And we saw that with something like The Biggest Loser, where if you guys haven't seen the documentary for Biggest Loser, you should check it out. I think it's a good, it's a good conversation piece in the household to talk about, because it was like humiliating to people and so forth. They did a lot of dumb stuff on the show, but they did a lot of great stuff on the show, and I think the show had people talking about exercise and nutrition. Unfortunately, people were relying on the show. They were trying to rely on the show to help them lose weight. There was many people that signed up for like 5, 6, 7 years in a row to try to get on the show, hoping that the show would like bail them out of their weight loss journey, But there are a lot of people that did Biggest Loser that lost a lot of weight and kept the weight off. There are also some people that gain the weight back. There's some people that gain the weight back and then some, and that's the horror stories that you hear about. And what I'm here to tell you is that it's not the Biggest Loser's fault. It's the fault of it's a lack of communication. Like, if somebody didn't tell these people that you have to continue to have these good habits in order to keep the weight off, then maybe shame on them. But I'm sure that like everyone has an understanding of that, right? Everyone has an understanding that you move around a bunch and you have good habits, and then you lose weight, and as a result, you get the results you're looking for. You lose a bunch of weight, you become quote unquote healthier, you look healthier, all these different things happen. And then of course you're going to have a rebound if you went back to eating the way that you were originally eating, that got you that heavy in the first place. Then that should be no surprise to anybody. That should be very normal, right? That should be commonplace. That should be understood. That's something that's going to happen. You got rid of a lot of calories. You burned a lot of calories. You did all these things. But that lifestyle was not sustainable for you. And so therefore you started to gain the weight back. And with some of the people that gained, all the weight back and then some, I think that's, it really sucks. It sucks in a lot of ways. But some people, what they'll say is that Biggest Loser ruined their metabolism. And that actually is not true. They ruined their own metabolism by weighing 400 pounds. They ruined their own metabolism by ingesting a lot of junk food over the years to get themselves into that position. And so they messed up their own metabolism. Their metabolism was dysregulated. And then the metabolism was, I don't even know what you'd say. Their metabolism was maybe avoided a little bit by, the exercise regimen that they were put on. I mean, they weren't really put on like, muscle building activity, They were put on like fat breakdown and muscle breakdown activity, probably more so than anything with the type of movement. Now, a lot of these people, they're not people that move around a ton, so they're going to get some muscle results from just about anything. Anyway, it's an interesting show. You should watch it. I'm not trying to, make any of my episodes about just obesity. But I do find obesity to be really fascinating and interesting. And how do we help a wide range of people with weight loss? How do we help a wide range of people with just getting more fit and looking better? And we do so by finding sustainable diets. I think the key there is that there's an S at the end of it. We get to choose many different types of diets. So, my definition for like the word work would be that you follow what someone laid out, whether it be a workout regimen or a diet, and that while you're doing it, you're getting the results that you're looking for. To me, that would define work. Now, what has to be defined up front is like, how far do you want to go? How much weight do you want to lose? Like, what are you trying to do? So if you're trying to lose 100 pounds in 12 weeks or 100 pounds in 6 months or something, let's say, because some of these people at Biggest Loser lost weight rapidly. They lost weight really, really fast. The faster you lose it, the more likely you are probably the more likely you're going to have trouble afterwards keeping it off. Because the faster that you lose it, the more likelihood there is that you did something that is abnormal to lose the weight. You did something that's different. You maybe suppressed your appetite a ton, maybe through pure guts and will, and you just trained hard. You trained 4 hours every day. If you train 4 hours every day, well, that takes up 4 hours a day that you're not eating. That takes up, 2 hours of cardio, 2 hours of lifting, a lot of activity, a lot of calories burned, and then you're eating, salad and so forth. And there were some people on the show having like 800 calories a day and stuff. They're doing all kinds of crazy stuff because The Biggest Loser was a contest, was a show. But anyway, we're not going to sit here and ramble on about The Biggest Loser. I just thought it was interesting. You guys should check out the documentary. We're talking about sustainability and trying to find a diet that is sustainable. Now, just because somebody's like, oh, it's a well-balanced diet, that doesn't mean anyone's going to stick to it. That does not mean anyone's going to stick to it. That doesn't mean that people are going to automatically stick to it. Because all diets need what? All diets need some form of restriction. Whether it's time-restricted feeding or macro restriction, or whether it's calorie restriction, like direct calorie restriction. Macros would be more like indirect calorie restriction. Time-restricted feeding would be more indirect calorie restriction. You're not necessarily, that's not like the main focus. You're shrinking down the amount of time that you're eating, and you're saying I'm only going to eat like in a 4-hour window, but because I'm going to eat in a 4-hour window, I'm going to eat less food. So I am, shrinking down the calories a little bit on that too, right? There's not other methods. There's not other ways. There's not other known ways to lose weight. Even something like the GLP-1s and so forth, they are assisting people with eating less. Whether it's retatrutide or tirzepatide or Ozempic, they're all doing something a little similar. Some may be more effective than others, but they're all assisting people to eat less. Same with any appetite suppressant. It's helping someone to eat less. Caffeine, so forth, assisting people to eat less, be more comfortable while you're eating less food. But like, what's sustainable? Well, what I always say is like, who are you to tell me what's sustainable? How do you know what's sustainable for me? Maybe for me, maybe I love food that has fat in it. Maybe I love hot dogs. Maybe I love cheese. Maybe I love bratwurst. Maybe I love sausage. Maybe I grew up on like hamburger meat and cheese and these different things, right? Well, then maybe there's a discussion to be had. Okay, well, what's going to be sustainable for you may not be a super low fat diet. Like a low fat diet might work for you, and it might be something that you entertain. It might be something that you try. It might be something that you do for a few weeks and you see where it leads you to. One thing I would say is that if something leads you to a new low in body weight, but then several weeks later, you're back way up in body weight, you have to kind of start to ask yourself some questions about what happened. What made something like what was it? Was it the diet? Was it your environment? Was it kind of the thing, the things going on around you? Because sometimes that could be the case, right? You can view things around you as being hectic. We hear people use that term all the time. Oh, it's pure chaos. And you go over their house and you're like, doesn't seem like it's that chaotic. But for whatever reason, to them, that's their interpretation of it. It's chaotic. Whether it's the family's going through something new and different. I just dealt with getting both of my kids out of the house. So that's new and different for me. I could very easily view that as being some sort of major stressor to me. And I could have it result in a negative reaction of drinking, relying more on drugs. I could go off my diet. But for me personally, I have recognized that I get the greatest amount of joy through my disciplines. And it's not because I'm some badass. It's none of that. It's because I just have learned to do this, and I've learned to do it over time, and it makes me feel good. So I'm not like a masochist. I'm not like looking for pain. I'm not looking for trouble. I just like to work on enhancing and improving myself. And that's where my mind usually goes to. Now, will my mind drift, and will it go into, oh man, it'd be awesome to have some pizza like during this football game or something like that? Yeah, sure it does. Sure it does. But that's what we're here talking about today, is like, what do you do with that? What do you do with that craving? Like, what are we supposed to do? And we got we're live here. So, Q&As are wide open if you guys have questions and stuff. And we can kind of maybe try to talk through this, because I don't really know what the right answers are necessarily. I think that you guys probably have some pretty good answers. But to me, the best diet is what Stan Efferding always says. It's going to be the one that you can follow. But the caveat being, it's the one that you can follow for a long period of time. So now at the same time, we can't just say the best diet's the one you follow and you still have a really laxed, crappy nutritional protocol that is not giving you the nutrients that you need, nor is it providing you with you even heading remotely in the right direction, right? We can't just have a diet where you're eating sandwiches, burritos, and consuming all these fat and carb calories. You have some sort of plan. You don't even have a plan. You're just eating the standard American diet. Well, that's not okay. That's sustainable. And the one that you're going to follow is going to be the best one for you, right? That's what I just said. Well, not in all cases all the time, because you could be following some crap diet. But for the most part, you know what I'm talking about. So if you select a diet that has been shown to assist people with weight loss, like a low carb diet, like a low fat diet, if you select one of those diets, or even calorie restriction, if it fits your macros, or counting your calories, tracking, whatever you want to call it, those things have all, pick an app too. There's apps, right, that have helped thousands of people lose weight, and you could be one of them potentially. Sometimes what happens is there's two different scenarios that happen. One scenario is person A starts to follow something they found on an app. Let's say it's like Jeff Nippard's app, okay? And they start losing some weight. And then they start following a couple other things that are on this Jeff Nippard app, which maybe you can look it up because I forget what the name of it is. A lot of people have a lot of great apps. I know, Dr. Mike Israetel has an app too. These guys, they all deserve props. They work really hard on these different things that they have. Does it have the name pop up there?
It's called Macro Factor.
There you go. Macro Factor. Let's say you follow in Macro Factor, right? And you start to lose a little bit of weight, right? Usually what happens with most people is they start to learn more. And maybe through Macro Factor, they're learning more about bodybuilding. Maybe they check out some of Jeff Nippard's stuff. Check out some of his YouTube channel. They check out stuff that he's talked about with hypertrophy. Then maybe they stumble onto Dr. Mike Israetel. Then maybe they stumble onto Alberto Nunez. And maybe they stumble onto, oh my God, like this looks really cool. Like I like bodybuilding. And there's some natural bodybuilding and there's some other people that don't do it naturally. That's really interesting, right? And somebody just keeps getting down the rabbit hole a little further. And they're like, man, I want to have more muscle. I want my shoulders to be a little, bigger and so on. So somebody starts to research that and they find out they need to eat more protein and they find out maybe they should get some creatine. They find out, they need to do resistance training, multiple times a week, maybe 4 times a week to get the kind of bodybuilding results that some of these people that they're looking up to get. And then you start to kind of, you start to learn and you just lean into it more and more. And then you might end up on a different diet. You might say, oh, let me try this 12-week contest prep thing that was, written out by Coach Greg. I don't know. Right? You're checking out Coach Greg's cookbook or whatever it might be, right? You just keep learning and absorbing. But now you're on a different diet. You're not doing Jeff Nippard's thing anymore. You moved on to this other thing. And maybe that other thing helps you get a little bit leaner, helps you get a little bit better shape, and you're digging that. And then maybe you learn about stand efforting stuff. And then maybe you learn about the vertical diet and so on, right? And you can kind of see like you're continuing to learn, you're continuing to grow. But then there's person B. Person B follows some of the stuff from Jeff Nippard. And maybe they're getting some decent results. They're losing some weight, but they're not really following it maybe the exact way that they need to. Then they tighten up a little bit. They follow it a little bit more. And then they're like, you know what? I probably need to do a little bit more cardio. They do a little cardio. They get to the gym a little bit more. They put in a good effort and boom, they're also losing some weight. They're doing pretty good. They lose 20 pounds. They're, at their first year of college and it's a guy and he runs into a lady friend, and he starts hooking up with this girl. Then they get together and the guy starts to gain some weight, because now they're going out to eat every once in a while. His diet changed. He doesn't feel like telling them how weird he is about the Jeff Nippard app, Macro Factor. And he's just slacking on the gym and so forth. And so he gains some of the weight back or gains most of the weight back. And at that point, maybe he doesn't go back to a diet. That's where people are going wrong. So the idea that a diet is not sustainable is correct because you are always going to change diets. But what's not known and what's not talked about is you never, ever get a chance or an opportunity to come completely off a diet recklessly for however long you want. That is never, ever the case. Just like it's never, ever the case that you're going to reach some sort of successful point in your life where you're like, oh, cool, I made $2 million. Now I'm just going to chill on the beach and do nothing. Or I made 5 million, or I made 10 million, or I made 50 million, or I made 100 million. That will not happen that way. It will not happen that way. Because every time you climb the ladder, what do you recognize? It's like an old school Atari video game. It's like Pitfall. A new rung appears with every goddamn climb that you make. A new rung appears every single time. Just like one of those old school video games. It doesn't have good graphics. You can't see shit on it. They didn't even have ladders in this game, I don't think. Maybe they did, but like stuff doesn't appear, or it appears like just shaded lightly off screen, and then as it comes to you, you see it more and more. I saw like somebody posted something on the Legend of Zelda the other day, and they had that old school. We won't be able to play it here because we're live, but they had that old school Legend of Zelda music, and I was like, oh man, I remember that. And it showed the case and the cover, and it was a big deal. The Legend of Zelda cartridge. Some of you might not know, I'm a video game nerd, but long time ago video game nerd, not current. I know nothing about the current games. The video game cartridge, the Zelda cartridge, was like gold, I think. And it was like a big deal at the time. We were like, oh man, it's gold. And obviously it's just plastic, but it was cool that it was shaded gold or colored gold. But anyway, you kind of see my point, right? There's person A and person B. There's person B that gets distracted, goes off the plan. And then somebody asks that guy and they say, hey man, how is I remember you telling me about that macro factor. I remember you lost some weight, and how'd that end up going? And the guy's like, oh, well, I gained all my weight back. And then now that guy thinks that app sucks. He doesn't know that the app worked when it was used properly. So you have to use it or you're going to lose it. And if you don't switch into something else, it's so common it's so common in fitness that I take it for granted. I think that everyone should just know all this stuff. Oh, you go from this diet to that diet. Like this diet helps prepare you for that diet. What you did in the past helps to prepare you for the future. Math 101 and then math 102, right? Like that's the way we build upon stuff. Like, oh, I did, 135 for a couple sets of 6 on a deadlift last week, and that felt good, and I had good form and technique. This week, I'm going to see if I could do 145. If I do 145 for a couple sets of 6, maybe the next week I'll go to 155. It's like what I did the week before, what I did in the past is assisting me now with what I'm about to try to do in the future. And your diet's the same way. It's no different. When I say never, I don't mean you never come off your diet. I don't mean you never have ice cream. I don't mean any of that stuff. Because you guys know, like, it's important to make room for these things because that is part of the key factor of sustainability. And we'll get to some of that in a minute, is you have to have wiggle room. You have to allow for time periods where you are eating differently. And you might have to allow time for like a little reprieve. You could word that whatever way you want. You could say it's a refeed. You could say it's a cheat. You could say it's a vacation. You could say it's a, some people say reverse dieting, which sounds like completely ridiculous, right? I'm going to do the reverse of a diet. Like it just sounds like you're going to get so fat, reverse dieting. But reverse dieting is usually climbing your calories back upward. And so it just means like, I'm going to climb my calories back up by 250 or 500 calories for the next 6 days, 10 days. I haven't done this in a while, but I used to take a diet break. People do that. People take a diet break. What's a diet break? Now, a diet break is not an onslaught of you just eating all day, but it's like you're going to have 2 or 3 times a day that you're going to eat. And when you eat, you're just going to eat like completely like free and normal. And normal like is not really the right word, because normal could mean that you eat chicken breasts, because that could be normal to you. But you are eating some of the things, but you're not hunting down all of the things that you normally don't eat. Does that make sense? So let's say it's very rare for you to have a breakfast burrito. Well, wake up and go get a breakfast from wherever you want. However many calories, like what am I supposed to do? What do I do? That's what happens to people. People get in a panic. They're like, wait a second. What do you mean? Yeah, man, next 2 weeks, eat whatever you want. They go, huh? Wait, what? Yeah, eat whatever, don't engorge yourself all day long. But over the next 2 weeks, eat whatever you'd want. Now, if you do that, what you'll be surprised about is you'll get 3 days down the road. You're not going to get tired of it, but you're going to be kind of worried about it. And you're going to be like, man, I made a lot of progress. I lost 30 pounds. I don't want to gain all that weight back. Now, this takes a while to get to this point, but this is something that Jesse Burdick had me do. And I used to implement it every year because I like cookie dough. I like Ben and Jerry's. I like peanut butter cups. I like all that stuff. So that 2 week time frame was a great time frame for me to eat some of those foods. And I might eat one of those foods, one time per day. I might have something like a breakfast burrito. Then the next day, I might pick something at lunch and eat a bunch of sourdough grilled cheese sandwiches. And the next day, and you just kind of like you pick something for the day. You're not you're not trying to make all your meals horrible. The other rule is too, you're trying to get your protein in, right? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because potentially this little 2 week break could allow some breathing room for you to stay on a diet for another year or two. Because you got this little break. Now, it doesn't have to be 2 weeks. You could do 5 days. You could throw in a 5-day diet break every 12 weeks. Every season, summer, spring, winter, fall. You throw in a couple of days. Maybe it's just 3 days. You do 3 days 4 times a year, or you just kind of eat a little bit of what you want. And maybe that's, Christmas, Thanksgiving, right? And then you sprinkle it out throughout the rest of the year or something like that. Something along those lines. But if you do that, that is going to allow you to really dig your heels in and really fight for your position and fight for yourself and fight for your diet and stay on your diet longer. For me personally, I don't feel like I need these types of things at the moment. Now, I might feel differently a month from now, 2 months from now. Right now, I'm feeling pretty good. I think it's because of my weight. I'm around 218, 220, and I'm full. My muscles are full. And this is actually like a really great place that I wanted to be. And this is one of the goals, is to be like about 210, but be full. So I just have a little bit more to go to be able to kind of accomplish that. But I'm 220 with like a good amount of food in me. And I look pretty big at 220 with a good amount of food in me, or at least I feel like I do. So, and I'm feeling strong in the gym, like my performance and stuff like that is good. Your sustainability also is going to be determined by your food options, but it's not just, it's about your food options and what you like. So I don't mind doing a low fat diet, but for some people, they might not like it. As I've mentioned before, most people that are fat, they have more of a fat palate than anything else, than they do just like a sweet tooth. They have a fat tooth. They want the fattier foods. They want the barbecue. And that's fine. I'm not criticizing or making fun. I love all those things too. But I can sacrifice the fat because I like the results that I'm able to get while sacrificing the fat and then bringing the carbohydrates in. I'm able to be a lot bigger and a lot stronger, a lot more muscular, a lot more pumped, a lot more even just enthusiastic about the workouts and stuff. One thing that is interesting, though, is that the fats are something that keep me very calm. And that is an interesting thing because I like being calm. I like being chill. I don't like being like revved up. I don't like anxious thoughts, anxiety, worry. All those things are not things that I normally ever feel. And if I do feel them, I'm able to like breathe them away, kind of thing, Same thing with like depression, any of those kinds of things. But sugar will get me a little loopy sometimes, and it will get me racing a little bit. So I do need to be a little cautious about, and I'm not just talking about like just table sugar. I'm just talking about the amount of carbohydrates and stuff that I'm consuming at the moment, or on certain days when I'm consuming, a lot of rice and fruit and honey and all those different things. So I have noticed that I do need to sometimes be a little careful with that, because that will elicit some thoughts in my head that normally are not there. And so that's why I'm like, oh, well, I was on a completely different diet when I was on, I do notice that when I eat mixed macros, when I bring in protein and carbohydrates, that it has a different impact too. So sometimes it's just small adjustments to a new diet as well. It's not just the diet itself. When I'm eating like meat and rice, like I don't really notice that as much. So that's on me to like work on trying to figure that out a little bit better. Or maybe just in the evening, maybe I just bypass the carbohydrates. Sometimes that might be a good solution. I just have, mainly like a protein meal at night, maybe with some vegetables rather than with some carbohydrate. But normally that's a good thing. Normally normally those carbohydrates stirring me up and making me like up, normally that's a good thing. It's like come in here, do the podcast, talk a bunch, move around a bunch, be a little bit more animated, be more hyped up and crush my workouts and stuff. But sometimes later in the evening, it's not great. Plus, I think what's actually causing that more so than anything is that my workouts have been late. I've been working out like 7 p.m. and stuff like that more recently. And that has always made it difficult for me to sort of calm down after that. I work out 7 to 9. Now it's 9 o'clock. I'm eating. It's 9:30 and I'm in bed at 10:30. It's like all sort of rushed to bed with the food, with stomach being kind of full. But I think that a low-fat diet, low-fat, smash a ton of protein, smash a ton of carbs, I think is a very sustainable diet. Some people like to have variety in their diet. And for those people that like to have variety in your diet, you can have any fruits that you want, any vegetables that you want, which is the case with a lot of diets. Any fruits, any vegetables, any types of lean meats. You want your meat to be very, very lean. And occasionally you can eat more fat if you need to keep the diet going, to keep the diet cranking. You start to have, 30 grams of fat a day and you do that for 10 days in a row and you want to have a little bit more fat, have the chicken thighs, have the tri-tip, have the, whatever, insert whatever. Sometimes like a ribeye and stuff like that. To me, I don't think those things are really as worth it as I used to. And that's individual though. That's up to you guys to decide that. But I still will go with certified Piedmontese ribeye over anything else, and it still has half the fat, but they taste so damn good. And again, I know people complain about the price, and I understand because certified Piedmontese is the cream of the crop. It is the best, but use the code Mark Bell and you get 25% off and you get free shipping. I will plug that all day long, all the time with zero shame because the meat is that damn good. A sirloin filet is almost like 0 grams of fat. Filet mignon itself has 0 fat, but the sirloin filet I think is 0 fat as well. I like the flank steak a lot. I like the not the flank steak. I'm sorry, it was flat iron steak. I like that one a lot. The bavette steak, 16 grams of fat, 100 grams of protein. I mean, that's just like, that's incredible. That's really good. A lot of really good cuts of meat that they have there. And if you want something that's a little fattier, maybe you get the New York strip, maybe you get the ribeye and so forth. But anyway, I think that this diet is super sustainable because if you want something to look forward to, just, have some, cook up some, I recommend you do this at home so you can control the amount of fat and stuff that's in it. You're not eating a bunch of fried crap, but in your air fryer, make some buffalo wings for when football season starts coming around again. Eat some damn buffalo wings. And yeah, I realize buffalo wings have a ton of fat, but that's your main meal for that day. Eat, I don't know, 16, 20, 30. I don't know. Eat as many of them as you want. 40, 50, go for it. Eat them. Eat them up. And then you're not going to have it again for like 2 weeks or something like that. You go for it. But it's different than when you're on a keto diet and you feel like this is my last chance to get this kind of sweet thing in. Because on a low fat diet, you have sweet foods in. We've talked about this before. It tends to crush. It crushes a lot of those cravings that are always drifting around in your head. You never even realized it before. You never even realized that the pizza and the cheeseburger and the French fries and the this and that was dancing around in your head because you don't consume any sugar. You don't consume any carbohydrates. And because you're not consuming maybe much in the way of carbohydrates, or you're thinking that sugar is bad and you're not having any regular sodas or anything like that anymore, you have deprived yourself to a point where in your brain's thinking like sweet and salty, kind of over and over again. And again, that could result in a pizza. And you would think, like, how does that result in pizza? Well, pizza a lot of times is very sweet. The tomato sauce can be very sweet. The tomato sauce a lot of times has sugar added to it. I don't really like tomato sauce for that reason, or at least that kind of tomato sauce. I kind of can't stand that. There's a place here in town. I think it's Woodstocks. Their sauce is too sweet. I can't eat it. Like I mean, I could eat it because I'm fat and I love pizza, but I don't want it. It's not very good. I'd rather have something that's a little bit more tame, or just somebody use a hell of a lot less tomato sauce if it's going to be that sweet. So how do you find a diet that's going to be sustainable for you? Well, it has to have some foods in it that you like. If you're somebody that doesn't really like fat, then why are you going to try to go on a keto diet? If you're somebody that doesn't like meat, why are you going to go on a carnivore diet? If you're somebody that you really think that being on like a super low fat diet is going to be restrictive and that you're not going to be able to do it, it's always best to like try things. But if you just think like, oh man, I don't like egg whites, I don't like white fish, I don't like scallops, I don't like shrimp, I don't like really lean steaks, I don't like chicken breast, I don't like turkey, then maybe you just don't even bother with it. I think everything's always worth a try. I think you would be surprised at how amazing these low fat foods can taste when they're blended with vegetables or whether they're blended with a starch. Chop up chicken real small, cook it up in a pan. Don't overcook it. Everyone overcooks everything all the time. Just cook it until you don't see any like pink crap in there anymore. Okay. And then just dump and throw a bunch of salt on it and dump it over some rice. It's going to be awesome, especially because you just cooked it. It's going to be hot. The rice is kind of hot. It's going to taste really good. Pour some bone broth over it if you want. Or rather than having that just be so plain Jane, throw some peppers on there. Or throw some, get creative. Throw some pickle juice. I have like this kimchi pickle juice that I sometimes will drizzle over top of some rice and some chicken. It's freaking awesome. Cleveland Kitchen, I think it's called. Cleveland Kitchen kimchi pickles. It's unbelievable. They're really, really good. I don't know. Maybe you like sauerkraut. Throw some sauerkraut on some stuff. Cook up some red onions. Slice up some red onions and chop them up. Get some garlic. I make Italian dishes. I make Spanish dishes. When I do the Italian stuff, I just take a bunch of meat. I dump a bunch of canned tomato sauce on it. Again, I mentioned this a million times on the show, but it's important. I'll maybe make that with some pasta. I don't know why, but I like the pasta on top of the meat instead of the other way around. I kind of like the dryness and the texture of pasta without a lot of tomato sauce on it. And then I'll just pour garlic salt on there. It's so good. It's so damn good. I'm eating sourdough bread. I'm eating noodles. I'm eating cereal. I'm eating all kinds of awesome stuff. And so what? I got to make a little sacrifice here and there with the meat that I eat. But the meat that I eat is like, so the meat that I eat used to make up like everything, right? Now it doesn't make up everything. Now it just makes up like 50% of the meal I'm having, because the other percent is made up with like rice and vegetables or potato. Another great thing to do is to chop up some really lean steak or really lean chicken with you could use a sweet potato, and then you can dump some like mustard on there or some honey mustard. Make sure the honey mustard doesn't have fat in it. You can do the same thing and not use the mustard, but instead just throw some straight honey on there. You can throw honey on it as well as sriracha. They sell them together even. They sell like hot honey. Real hot honey will have oil in it, so be careful of that. But hot honey sriracha doesn't. It's just honey and sriracha, and it's amazing. Man, there's just so many things you can do. You can dump some Frank's Red Hot on some stuff. And when you have this like, you have this kind of these mixtures of flavors going on with texture, because you have rice or you have a potato to eat with it. It's absolutely incredible. It tastes amazing. And there's all kinds of sauces you can get into. You can get into the chili sauce from G. Hughes, like that chili sauce. That stuff's really good. Again, just pay attention to the labels on these things. I don't recommend that you like cook with these things. I think that you use them when you're done cooking and use them sparingly, because I think the calories can get way out of control, even though it will say like 5 calories, but like you're going to use probably quite a bit of it. If you do that all the time, multiple times a day, eat multiple times a day, and it just adds up. And it's just a bunch of stupid extra stuff that you probably don't need. But all that shit's really good. I actually cooked up some beef one day, some 93.7 lean ground beef with some 99 turkey. And I threw in some dates and I threw in some honey, which sounds weird and bizarre and gross. But people do that with bananas sometimes too. And a banana can be really good. A friend of mine was telling me the other day about, and he mentioned it on the show, red rice and bananas with some meat. Shit, man, a banana, like to me, a banana seems like it's going to make chicken breast like kind of slippery and way easier to eat. That might sound like a weird combo, but maybe you need to try it. Maybe it'd be something that's worthwhile. Don't forget the Japanese sweet potato that I always talk about. That's the greatest thing. People never talk about it, but it's way better than a regular potato. It's 1,000 times better than a sweet potato. Also, you can get you can have home fries when you're eating like this, like not home fries, but hash browns rather. Simply potato hash browns, 0 fat. Figure it out. Cook them up. I actually cook them in a waffle iron thingy. I throw them in the waffle iron. I've actually threw them in the waffle iron with a little bit. I'll use a little bit of spray on the waffle iron, and I will throw in some egg whites, and it makes like a simply potato pancake, like a potato egg white pancake, and it's dope as hell. It's amazing. And those things are seasoned, and there's a lot of like weird crap on them or whatever, but who cares? No fat. It's on. You can eat it. And a great source of carbohydrates too, just to keep in the freezer. Those simply potatoes, they just sit in the freezer or your fridge, either way. And you just take them out and you just cook them up, and they're ready to rock. Super convenient, super easy. So, a sustainable diet, again, I think it's like up for debate on what's going to be sustainable. Hopefully we got some questions we can get to. So let's get to it.
Yeah. Tyler Goodman says, what are your thoughts on many experts recommending fats not going below 15 to 20% of daily calorie intake? I understand that Stan Efforting recommends not going below 60 grams per day.
Yeah, we had Stan on the podcast, so hopefully you listened to that episode. Kind of talked him through it a little bit more. 60 grams of fat would be a percentage, right? Like, so if you're talking percentages, that would be that would represent a certain percentage of how many calories somebody's eating. I would disagree with the percentage. I don't think it's accurate. I think it could be lower. I think the roadblocks and the things that bodybuilders run into are because a bodybuilder is so incredibly lean. Think about that. A bodybuilder is like 4% body fat. Their body does not want to give up any more fat, or they're 6% body fat, or they're 8% body fat. They're very, very lean. When you have more body fat to burn, you have more body fat to lose, your body should be looking to body fat. You kind of have to think about like why would your body make certain decisions? Like your body's going to make decisions to compromise your health when your calories are too low. So again, you have to keep in mind, everyone has to keep in mind, they have to understand this about what I'm communicating about. I am not communicating about being in an intentional caloric deficit. I am virtually never communicating about that. The only time I might communicate about that is where I might say, hey, try a protein sparing modified fast, which is just like a handful of days of you just primarily eating protein and maybe a little bit of vegetable. And that would be like, hey, to tighten up over the course of a couple days. But other than that, I'm not mainly suggesting a caloric deficit. So if you want your hormones to go haywire, it would not be because your fat is low. It would be in combination of your fat being too low and your calories being too low. So if you're somebody that starts to suffer from having any sort of hormonal disruption, then first of all, you could simply bring your fats back up a little bit if you needed to. But the first place I would start would be with my calories. Bring those calories back up. And remember, what I'm preaching on this channel is a little bit different than what's being preached by Cole. Cole Robinson is usually, telling you to get down to like 5%, go 5% with your fats. And I've mentioned that before as well. But I've been communicating the whole time that that's something I think that you should only use for short periods of time. If we go by percentages, a lot of times I'm recommending around 30 grams of fat in a day. So that could represent, 15% for somebody that has a 2,000 calorie a day diet, or it could be more on the 10% side for somebody that has a 3,000 calorie a day diet. So my recommendations, I think, are spot on. I stick to them. I stick to them 100%. I back them 100%. I cannot foresee or understand why anyone would have complications with that. If somebody currently has complications, well, then I think that you have to maybe not you have to probably get yourself intentionally in a caloric surplus. So if you currently have hormonal issues, then I would say straight up, flat out, do the vertical diet and follow it to a T. And I would also say that it would be probably a smart move to gain some body fat. If you felt like you're in some sort of compromised position with your health or your hormones, your testosterone's super low, your libido's super low, whatever it might be, it would be a great experiment for you to spend some time in a very intentional caloric surplus and not keeping your fat high, but having your fat be, above like 50 or something would probably make a lot of sense. I still don't think your fat would necessarily need to be high, but because it wouldn't be like, you don't need to gain a bunch of weight. You don't need to gain a bunch of body fat to, in this case, like to help someone be healthier. It might be a good idea for some people to gain a little body weight to be a little bit healthier. It might not be a bad idea for someone to gain 3 to 5 pounds or something like that. But it's also not 100% necessary. So what you could do is you can bring your calories up, keep the fat kind of in that range, 50 to 60, like I said, and just keep, get the carbs and the protein up there a little bit. You should have plenty of stuff. You should have plenty of the macronutrients that you need to kick a lot of ass. Remember, don't forget that's a huge component, is that bodybuilders, they not only are super low body fat, they're also doing cardio. They're posing. Posing is not easy. They're posing daily, they're doing cardio, and they're lifting. And oftentimes they're lifting twice a day. So sometimes their whole day is the gym. They might spend 4 hours, 5 hours, 4 or 5 days a week exercising on top of being in a caloric deficit. So of course their hormones are going to go to shit.
Crystal Nauer says, are the numbers you are recommending conducive for women, or are you broadly referring to men?
Mainly when I'm talking about this like 30 grams of fat and stuff, it's usually for everybody. Like I think 30 grams of fat is like low enough for everybody. If a female is trying the protocol, and again, the main thing is really just to shoot for as low a fat as you can possibly get. That's really what the goal is. But fat usually sneaks its way into everything. And no, I think the recommendations are similar for male, female. I think the main differences between men and women when it comes to their food, the biggest difference just being like size. The biggest difference being like muscular size. And obviously I know there's other differences. There's hormonal things, there's ovulation, and there's like a lot of other things going on. And that's why a woman might find it more beneficial. I think that some women found fasting to be a little bit more difficult. For some women, it didn't seem like it was as effective as it was for men. There's some diet protocols that seem like they're not as effective for women. I know keto, for some women, they struggled with keto a little bit. And so, yeah, it's important that you find what feels right for you. And so experiment with it and, give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. But I think that there's probably not a lot of good reasons for you to go under 30 grams is a number that I sort of just kind of stumbled upon. I think that for most people, if they're between 30 to 50, they shouldn't have any problems whatsoever. I cannot really think of why. I can't really think of the reasons why someone would really struggle or have problems with 30 to 50 grams of fat per day. That should be a lot. That should be a decent amount for them to get along with. And again, lastly, don't forget, like, I'm not saying that you just do 30 to 50 grams of fat forever and ever and ever. Have some time away from that every once in a while. Have a day or two away from that where you double the fats a little bit or something like that. Have a little bit of reprieve from that. It's not because I'm not saying that because I think it's dangerous. I just think that a little bit of these little diet breaks, I think, are critical in your ability to be able to sustain something. Is to just simply, eat some foods that you look forward to. Having something to look forward to is like a really critical thing of a diet. And that's why I think what John Heck recommends, the strength coach, John Heck, what he recommends is great because he has like these high, low, medium days where he recommends you eating, more carbohydrate on these days, less carbohydrate on these. It gives you days to look forward to when you're like, oh shit, tomorrow's a high day. And then you'll be like, oh, the next day is a low day, right? And you might be a little bit sad about it, but you're not that sad about it because the next day after that's a medium day, and then boom, you're back up to a high day again. You're like, oh shit, this is great. So that kind of thing, having different things on different days can be really cool. Just like you might look forward to, you might be like, crap, I got shoulders. Maybe you don't love training shoulders. I got shoulders and triceps. I hate that day, Well, first of all, maybe you change your shoulder and tricep day to being like having at least one thing that you like in there. Maybe you do shoulders and back, and you do your shoulders because you hate your shoulders, but you do them in between your back because you love training your back. So you can kind of like give yourself these underhand pitches, and you can hit these bitches out of the park every single time if you just simply know what you're doing. And so the same thing goes with your diet. There's no reason to like perpetually be on this crazy low fat, I'm doing this all the time. Every once in a while, feed yourself a little treat. The treat doesn't have to be that you like completely cheat on the diet. The cheat could be that you made homemade pizza with your significant other and you ate a little bit of extra calories for the day. That could be your thing. Or you make some homemade cookies. Make some homemade peanut butter chocolate chip cookies. Sounds awesome, right? Make that with your wife and your daughter or something like that. Amen. Go ahead. Eat a bunch of them. Eat as many of them as you want. Get it out of your sight, and move on. And then go back to your plan the next day. That's the best way to kind of handle those things. Thank you for the question. Appreciate it. Next question.
Here's a comment from Steve. It says, Mark, I've been getting the 93.7 Piedmontese with your code for years. Thanks. I drain the fat, which Grok says removes 19 of the 32 grams of fat. So 1 pound gives me 92 grams protein with just 13 grams of fat.
Damn, that's a great hack. I know my buddy Russell Buddy is a fat drainer as well, and draining the fat like that, I think is a wise move. I didn't really realize it removes that much. I know we've talked about that before, the Foreman griller kind of thing and all those kinds of things. So it'd be great to know, how you're draining the fat. Maybe you're just like sweeping it off to the side or something, but it's good to know, like, kind of how people are doing some of these things. But if you're doing that with your ground beef, you're able to use that ground beef for any and everything. Now you just took it from, it had, about 32 grams of fat in it. Now it has about 20. Like that's amazing. So now you have, 20 grams of fat, and you have, it has a really good amount of protein in it. You throw that over some pasta or some rice. That's going to be absolutely, absolutely delicious. And again, maybe some days you just wake up and you're like, you know what? I just feel like having the fat, and you just don't drain it. Have the stearic acid, have the saturated fat in your diet. It's not gonna hurt. It's not gonna hurt you. It will hurt you. It will hurt you if you are doing that all the time, because then you'll just go over your energy amount for the day. But to just do it occasionally, like that's the exact way that I handle it. A lot of times I'll mix it with the 99% lean ground turkey. That's another way that I handle it, because that just splices it in half. Right now, we just made it like 95, 96% lean ground meat, because it's 2 pounds. Okay. And one of those pounds is 99%, and the other one's 90, whatever the other one is, 93%. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can figure these things out. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Matthew Urbanix says, is the sugar diet good for gaining muscle? How much, and source of protein?
The sugar diet wouldn't be my go-to for like muscle gain. The main thing that I would go to for, muscle gain, weight gain, period, would be more like Stan Efferding's vertical diet. The vertical diet's awesome. The vertical diet is actually very similar to the diet that I'm doing right now. It's just, I'm just doing like a leaner version of it. Stan doesn't really flat out define exactly what you should follow in terms of percentages and everything. He does give you recommendations, like if you want to get leaner, what those percentages and stuff should look like. I know that Stan himself, by the way, it's probably worth mentioning, he had around 70 grams of fat when he was getting ready for his bodybuilding shows, but he was huge. He was massive. So I would think that most regular people could deal with having about half, to 75% the amount of fat grams that he was having, especially because of how he trained and just all the other factors. I don't think there's any reason for other people to have 70 grams of fat. But if you're trying to get big, then you might want to have, 60, 70 grams of fat. I would just definitely look into Stan Efferding stuff. I want to say Stan's like a 33%er. I think he recommends in his book, I think he says to do 33% of each macro. I could be wrong, but I think that's about what he says. And then basically what you're going to do in order to stay lean is you're just going to dry out the fats and bring your carbohydrates and protein back up. So you can sprinkle out, you can take 13% or so away from the fats and have the fats be more like 20%, or have the fats be more like 15% if you still want to stay lean, but work on getting bigger. You could have those fats be like maybe more like 15 to 20% or something. What did you got over there, Ryan?
It says Stan Efferding's vertical diet usually shakes out when you look at the percentages instead of grams. Protein 25 to 30% of total calories, carbohydrates 45 to 60%, fat 20 to 30%.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, so the fat percentage is a little bit less than the rest, but it is almost like 33% of each thing, right? So, which by the way, like that's healthy. That you want to try to get the healthiest thing possible. You go with 33% of all three of the macros. That way, you're not discriminating against any of them. And if you try that and it's not resulting in you getting maybe as lean as you want, just knock the fat down. You can probably start to knock that fat down almost in half, from 13% or from 33% down to, 15%, 10%, 12%, somewhere in that range. And you should still have all the things that you need in order to stay healthy. Just never forget, I'm not saying to do this like all the time forever. Small breaks from it here and there. And then when you do get to be very lean, there's really no reason. There's no reason to, there's no reason to not bring in a little bit more fat here and there.
There's a follow-up comment from Crystal Nauer. She says, add on context, I've been low fat, 20 to 30 grams for the past 8 to 10 weeks due to your info, and went from 141 pounds to hovering around 134 pounds. 135 was my goal. Just wondering if it was sustainable. Thanks.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. Great job. I mean, it sounds like you're already fit. Sounds like you're already in shape. And you lost a good percentage of your body weight. I think something to think about here is like, how can you get better from here? So how do you get better from here? I would say that you're going to get better from here, if this is a goal of yours, in either gaining strength or gaining muscle. And it's going to be easier for you to gain strength or gain muscle if you add something. So like, what are you going to add back in? Maybe adding in like a small amount of fat might not be a bad idea, but my first go-to would be to probably add in more carbohydrate. Add in a little bit more carbohydrate and kind of see where the body goes from there. See if you can get, again, I don't know 100% of what your goals are, but if you are trying to get stronger and get a little bit more jacked and those kinds of things, then increasing your carbohydrate a little bit, maybe increasing your protein a pinch, is something that you play around with. I know sometimes too, some people are trying to build up like weaker areas that aren't, you got these weak spots you don't like, you want your shoulders a little wider, like, then you can maybe choose on particular days to eat a little bit more. That might be something to give a try to. Again, too, something to keep in mind is that fats are relaxing. They're like, fats are like low and slow. They're like, they kind of like calm you down. So in moments of like, high stress and feeling, maybe frantic or any of these things, that's maybe where you just, you have the 93.7 lean ground beef, eat it the way it is, don't drain it type thing. So you can get a little bit of the extra fat. Like hopefully that's all making some sense. Or you just have the damn cheeseburger at the barbecue type thing. There's little things like that. You're not like, F it, like I'm where I'm at. I'm as lean as I need to be. I'm as shredded as I want to be. I have no room for improvement. I've made it, It's not that mindset. It's not like you're letting up. It's not letting up at all. You're actually trying to push the gas pedal down. You're pushing the gas pedal down a little bit more, not to go faster, to have the car, to have your engine switch into the next gear, so that next gear is easier. So it's easier for you to go faster. That's what you're trying to do. because you're trying to take some of that energy that you're consuming and you're trying to put it into the gym. And so that's where I would look. I'd look at peri-nutrition very seriously. Peri-nutrition is like before, after, or before, during, and after training sessions. It's something that I started looking into a little bit more again. And I used to do this. I did this for years and years and years and years. And I just got so annoyed with it that I stopped doing it. But my nutrition during my training sessions is normally just like electrolytes. I played around with amino acids and electrolytes, amino acids and ketones, amino acids, electrolytes, ketones, all these different combinations of things over the years. I always liked the aminos and the ketones together, but they're weird. They're hard to find, and they're probably not worth it. I mean, they can be pretty effective, especially if you are a low carb person. But because I'm not doing that anymore, I have recently purchased a bunch of different supplements to supplement my workouts, to give me some peri-nutrition, to have some carbohydrates during the training session. This could be as simple as buying some Gatorade too. Like, this does not have to be complicated. Again, I mentioned in a previous episode, I think I talked about it in a previous episode. I've been doing a bunch of them today, but the combination of glucose and sucrose, or glucose and fructose, that absorbs and clears it faster than those carbohydrates by themselves. And so that's part of the reason why Gatorade is made up of what it's made of. And I think Gatorade initially and originally had maybe a slightly better formula, but Gatorade gets picked on and made fun of. You'll hear, some of the electrolyte people be like, oh, it doesn't have enough of this, enough of that. Well, they don't understand. You have any idea how much Gatorade people drink? So they can't have 1,000. It can't be like Element. Gatorade can't be like Element. Everyone would be dead. I don't think that sodium is a big problem. I think that you can have a lot of sodium, but Gatorade doesn't have a crazy amount of electrolytes in it because they're well aware that you're drinking Gatorade like literally like water. Like, think about how big is a Gatorade can? A Gatorade thing is like, they're all pretty big. I know they make them in smaller ones and stuff too, but Gatorade's pretty big. But something that people don't understand is that Gatorade has carbs in it. So even though it does have a little less salt, a little less potassium, a little less this, a little less that, they maybe skimped us out on that over the years. They got rid of their maybe original formula that they made for the Florida Gators, but it's got like some carbohydrate in there, and carbohydrates help hydrate the cells as well. So it is a good formula. In fact, Stan Efferding used to just say, hey, just take some dextrose and just dump that in your Gatorade. So you can just buy powdered dextrose, go on, Amazon, buy Now brand giant bag of dextrose, and dump some of that in there. I know Stan also was talking about dumping like dextrose on your rice and different things like that. And with the sugar diet, there's no reason why you can't just dump regular sugar on your rice. I do that pretty often, and it tastes amazing. It sounds weird to mix that with like beef, or to mix that with, a steak, but it's not weird. What it is it's amazing. It's absolutely awesome. And again, don't forget that there's a reason why you're doing that. You're not doing that just to dump sugar on something. You're doing it because you're amplifying the impact of how those carbohydrates work in your system. It's almost as if you took a glucose disposal agent, because that glucose is going to dispose faster with the two different types of carbohydrates rather than just one. I mean, that's what the science shows. I don't know. I suppose science can be flawed many times. Research can be flawed. I don't always love research, but why not use it when it's convenient here and there? And so a little sugar on your rice can go a long way. Or maybe it's like not necessarily sugar. Maybe just having barbecue sauce. Remember Ronnie Coleman? Here I am eating chicken again. And he's like, barbecue sauce. That's my favorite. That's like my favorite thing. It's like, what kind of police officer is this guy? Like he's just eating the entire time. I saw an interview with Ronnie Coleman recently. He was like, every day I thought, this is the day. This is going to be the day. He's like, this is going to be the day I'm going to get into a fight. He's like, it never happened. He's like, he was kind of sad. He's like, it never happened. Look come on. No one's that big. This has got to be fake. Holy crap. Yeah, he was huge. Just absolutely ridiculous. So I doubt the female that wrote in. I doubt she wants to look this big, but maybe she does. Who knows? He's got great clothes too. I love the some of the stuff these bodybuilders had back in the day. Like he had that cut off like flannel. I can't even imagine or fathom like what that physique would look like up close. You know, we had my friend Doug here a few years ago, and Doug was 300 pounds and about probably 270 or so on stage. And I can't imagine what Ronnie Coleman looked like up close. It must have been amazing. We're going to have to try to get like Nick Walker or someone like that on the show. Someone real gnarly that's just looking absolutely insane. Anyway, any more questions?
That's it for questions.
All right, peeps, hopefully you learned some things about sustainability. I hear people all the time, saying like, oh, this isn't sustainable. That's not sustainable. The sugar diet's not sustainable. But I know people that have been on, like Mike Faves has been on some version of the sugar diet for like 10 years. Amplified Vitality is somebody that does a form of the sugar diet. Mike Fave doesn't particularly do the exact sugar diet necessarily, but he's a guy that consumes like 300 or 400 grams of sugar every day with the rest of his kind of carbohydrates. Yeah, Ronnie Coleman down in some chicken in his car. But, whenever somebody says that to you, I think it's important that you kind of think twice about it. Like, so what if something's not really that sustainable? Like, who gives a shit? Like, imagine if you're just like, well, I just want to do this diet for the next 3 weeks. Like, people don't talk about in prep bodybuilding diets being like unsustainable. Like they don't care. Like they know that it's not sustain. You're not always supposed to sustain certain things. And bodybuilding is a great thing to look at, and it's a great lesson for me to learn because I've been working on like getting leaner for a long time. It's a good idea probably for me to pull back away from that idea a tiny bit, not to get fatter necessarily, but to just switch my focus a little bit more on strength and muscle size. Because if I do that for a moment, it's going to be so much easier for me to transfer over into getting leaner. And so a lot of these bodybuilders, a lot of these fitness people, they're doing things where they're very, very much deprived. We showed in the last video, we showed Tristan Lee, like this guy is super lean all the time anyway, but he's absolutely diced. Like it looks absolutely insane how lean he is. And for how lean he is, I mean, he's got like feathering going on, like in his cheeks, like in his, like on his face. You can almost see like striations in his face, and those deep striations in the shoulders and deep striations through the arms. It's just like absolutely unbelievable. It's really, really amazing. Now, maybe he won't sustain that, but he's not going to sustain it on purpose, more than likely. Like he might not want to stay there. Just like when I did my bodybuilding show, I didn't stay there. Most people don't want to stay there. And they know it's unsustainable. I mean, I was doing like 90 minutes or cardio a day or whatever it was, and flexing or posing and lifting and all the other stuff I was doing. It was kind of meant to be temporary, I guess is my point. And sometimes what you're seeing from other people, other influencers, is a temporary physique. But the physique that I have is not temporary. I've been working on this for a long time. I'm working on keeping this. And I'm working on continuing to get leaner. Will I get fatter than where I'm at right now? Sure, I will. I'm going to gain, a few pounds. I'm going to gain a few percentage above where I'm at right now. There's just no question about it. At some point, I don't know, I'm probably like 8% body fat. At some point, I'll probably go up to 11 or so. just without even really trying, I probably will end up there. But rather than slip up and end up there, why not have it be a little bit more intentional? Okay, I'm going to eat a little bit more food. I'm going to get a little nastier in the gym, build and try to gain some tissue, gain some lean tissue, and then see if we could ratchet it back down, which it should be easier. That's how bodybuilders do it. That's how they've been doing it forever. And it's great for us to learn and absorb stuff from them. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.